801. Go to a hotel. In the guild's book collection room, Naruto was rummaging in front of the rows of shelves. Recently, he hardly did any quests, but stayed in the library to search for some ancient records of civilization and magic. A synthesis method of chaotic energy. Although he can forcibly reverse by relying on his mental power, this method is always temporary and cannot be used for a long time. Moreover, if you want to open the door of time and space, you must be a grandmaster of space art, and the requirements for energy are even higher, so, he must convert all the magic in his body into the power of chaos. Only in this way can the real time and space art be exerted. And at that time, he will also leave this world. Of course, none of this has happened yet, he's working on it. Because Naruto has been coming to the library, many people in the guild are very curious, especially some girls who admire Naruto, and some deliberately read books in the library to meet him. Of course, Naruto didn't pay attention to what these girls did. He was immersed in knowledge, and he was madly absorbing the knowledge of the world's past. After a few days, he used the available information to find out that when the world was still in chaos hundreds of years ago, there was no so-called magic power. It was Jareth who created this magical world. And that Jareth used the power of chaos. This makes Naruto excited. Jareth is equivalent to the existence of the six paths immortal in the Hokage world. If such a strong man can fight him, even if he loses, it will be of great help to himself. Right. However, there is still too little information about Jareth, and Naruto can only know so much for the time being, but he thought again, since the power of chaos really existed, then there will definitely be someone in this world who wants to get such a powerful the power of, and will definitely work hard to study it. It's just that all this is not yet clear, and Naruto's research has just begun. Just as he kept flipping through the ancient books, a book with ancient characters suddenly appeared in his sight. He found that he couldn't understand any of these characters. The distressed Naruto happened to see a petite figure not far away who was also reading a book. With navy blue shoulder-length hair and a cute face, she is already quite old, and her figure is small and exquisite. It is Lebi, a researcher of word magic. Naruto went over with the book and asked her for advice. Lebi, excuse me, I don't understand the text in this book, can you translate it for me? He had a faint smile on his face. Lebi was reading a book seriously, but she was not angry at all when she was disturbed by Naruto, but nodded happily. Well, no problem. I'm very happy to be able to help you. She smiled, took the book in Naruto's hand and read it. This book is quite old, and I haven't even seen the text on it, but, give me a little time, I should be able to translate it, said Lebi. Well, thank you, then I will trouble you. Naruto thanked. Until night, Lebi was still sitting on the floor of the library translating, while Naruto was rummaging through other books. He occasionally glanced at Lebi, who was seriously studying the text, and saw that she was wearing a pair of round glasses. When she encountered a problem, she could not help lying on the ground, leaned over and carefully read the contents of the book. His eyes flashed thoughtful eyes from time to time, appearing quiet and beautiful, full of an intellectual aura. Moreover, it seems that she didn't even notice that in the process of studying the text, her lying body involuntarily raised her buttocks high, and as she flipped the book, her petite and lovely charming. The hips are still twisting slightly. What an alluring loli. After Naruto realized that he was thinking a little, he hurriedly turned his eyes away and stopped looking at her. Before I knew it, it was late at night. Naruto couldn't help frowning when she saw that she hadn't finished reading the text of the book, but she had been studying like that for most of the day, and besides drinking some water, she didn't even have time to eat. Lebi, it's time to take a break, let's go eat something. Naruto said with some distress. Just a moment, Naruto, it'll be over soon. However, Lebi, who was caught in the research, seemed to be tireless. Instead, she was a little dissatisfied with Naruto's interruption and refused his kind reminder. Naruto gave a wry smile and continued to wait for her, not in the mood to continue reading. However, looking at her persistent and serious look, Naruto found it very seductive and could not help but be fascinated by it. After a while, Naruto came back to his senses. At this time, Lebi had almost finished translating. She stood up with a sigh of relief, but her body was a little stiff because she held a position for a long time, and she almost fell when she was slightly soft. Next, Naruto stepped forward, wrapped his arms around her slender waist, and supported her. Lebi suddenly felt a strong masculine breath coming, and suddenly her face turned Yuhi, and her body leaned softly in his arms. Naruto, the book has been translated, please take a look. Yuhi handed the book to Naruto with a face. The contents of this book have been magically translated into the common language. Naruto took it with a slight smile and sincerely thanked. Thank you, Rebi. It's all right, it's just a small matter, Rebi said in a panic as she fled from his embrace. Only now did Lebi realize it. Gone. Naruto couldn't help but let out a wry smile. Rebi actually forgot the time after researching it. This was so serious that even he felt embarrassed. Hearing her words, Naruto originally wanted her to stay at his place for one night, but he immediately thought that Angier was at home, so he had to say, since it's so late, let's go to a nearby hotel first. Late. Well, that's fine too. Lebi nodded slightly. Although it was the first time she went to a hotel with the opposite sex, she trusted Naruto very much, so she had no doubts in her heart and left with Naruto at ease. 802. Spring Dream. The two walked on the night road. There were few pedestrians on the road. Most of them had gone back to rest. Only some homeless people or drunks were still wandering on the street. Lebi was very nervous and excited, because this was the first time she had gotten along with Naruto so closely. When she thought of the hard work of translation today, in exchange for being alone at night, her heart seemed to be like flying, very happy. The moonlight was like water, and it was cool, and Lebi felt that the time at the moment was so beautiful. It was her dream to be so close to the Naruto whom she admired in her heart. However, at this moment, several untimely voices suddenly came from the side. I saw a few gangsters in sloppy clothes emerged from the alley on one side, and they staggered towards Naruto and forced them. Yo, so late for a date. One of the youths with Yuhi hair laughed evilly. Naruto and Rebi couldn't help frowning upon seeing this. What a boring date. Let's go play with my brother. Another burly man with a big belly shouted, emitting a stench and alcohol from his mouth. Of course Lebi knew that these people were not serious people, but she didn't expect that such a good chance for her and Naruto to get along with them would be ruined, and her mood suddenly became very bad. She snorted and said angrily, I don't want to play with you guys. Quote. Hey, what a stubborn little girl. When several people heard Lebi's crisp voice, they all laughed happily. I'm a sorcerer, Lebi said angrily, you guys leave me right away. Ah, sorcerer, little sister, are you sure you're not lying? Ha ha ha, a cute little girl like you actually says she's a sorceress. Stop talking big, it's wrong to lie, let the brothers be good, let's educate you, the gangsters talked guy, and reached out to grab her arm. Lebi dodged behind Naruto in disgust and hid behind him. The hands of those people stopped in front of Naruto. Their expressions changed, and they suddenly said angrily, you bastard haven't left yet. What, do you want to be beaten? Seeing that Naruto didn't run away, this group of people immediately became angry. They hated such little white faces the most. Naruto looked at them like an idiot. To be honest, he didn't bother to get to know these gangsters in general, but the good mood at this time had been destroyed by them, and it was really uncomfortable not to teach him a lesson. So, without waiting for them to say anything, Naruto stepped forward and said, get out of here now. Otherwise, you will be responsible for the consequences. Seeing that Naruto wasn't afraid of them at all, the gangsters immediately shouted angrily, you brat is trying to find death. Hit me. A group of thugs rushed up, and Naruto was in a bad mood, and he didn't even bother to use magic, so he rushed up and punched them with his fists. Bang bang bang. After a few muffled noises, the gangsters were brought down by Naruto almost instantly. Hey, that's bad luck. He clapped his hands and took Lebi away. Only a few thugs were left screaming miserably. After finally arriving at the hotel, I wanted to open 2 rooms, but found that there was only 1 hotel left. Just when she was about to change her place to sleep, Lebi shook her head and said, "Forget it, it's good to have a rest. It's already so late, and if you go further, it will be dawn." Naruto had no choice but to agree when he heard it. In that case, it would be the same if he went back to sleep by himself. The 2 entered the room, and after Naruto thanked her again, he was about to leave. However, Lebi stepped forward to hold him and asked pitifully, "Naruto, won't you stay with me? There is only 1 room, of course I have to go back to sleep." Naruto smiled slightly. "But, can you accompany me?" Lebi suddenly said to him with a sullen face. Naruto couldn't help being stunned for a moment, looking at her pink and tender cheeks. He only felt that she was extraordinarily attractive, and he hesitated for a while. The girls are so softly begging themselves, if they don't stay, will it be a little bad? Thinking like this, he had no choice but to nod his head and sit down on the chair in the room. Rebi was lying on the bed, and she didn't have any sleepiness, so she started chatting with Naruto. The 2 chatted about the past and the current guild, and they had a very happy chat. Rebi also asked about Naruto and Urza and their relationship with Lucy. She of 8 trigrams has always talked to Naruto, Urza and the others. The ambiguous relationship between Lucy and Mirage was very curious. Now that there is such a good opportunity, he didn't want to let it go, and kept asking. Naruto broke out in a cold sweat when she asked her. He couldn't think of Rebi's 8 trigrams, so he couldn't sit still. Just when he was about to flee, Lebi suddenly yawned, pulled Naruto's arm and said coquettishly, "Naruto, I'm so sleepy, let's go to sleep." After speaking, she grabbed Naruto's arm, lay on the bed, and fell asleep with her head resting on his arm. Naruto was helpless, and he forgot the time while chatting with her, and the 2 of them were on the bed at some point. Fortunately, the bed was big enough, and Naruto pulled the quilt over the 2 of them, and he also held Lebi in his arms and entered the dream. Naruto had a dream. He dreamed that there was a small buttock in front of him. He was constantly swaying towards him, sending out that kind of silent temptation. Suddenly, the small pants wrapped around this small buttock. The trousers suddenly flew off, revealing the tender meat inside, and Naruto was immediately excited, and when he jumped up, he was ravaged by a frenzy. In the morning, Naruto woke up faintly. He suddenly found something strange under him, a little wet. He was startled suddenly, and suddenly felt something soft lying on his body. It was Lebi's body. Carefully lifting the quilt, Naruto couldn't help being stunned, only to see Lebi turned upside down at some point, her head just aimed at Zai's lower body, and her cute little butt was lying on his chest. 2 slender and delicate legs are standing on his shoulders. The posture is extremely ambiguous. 803. It's very small here. What's going on? Naruto couldn't help but feel embarrassed for a while. He found that when he raised his head slightly, his face was in the middle of the 2 tender legs, and a faint body fragrance entered his nose. It's deadly. Didn't Lebi sleep with her pillow on her yesterday? Luckily, Lebi was still wearing a pair of trousers. Although Naruto saw the pure white trousers at this time, he finally didn't see the contents clearly. However, this seems to be even more unbearable. Naruto's bottom suddenly stood up. The pants were wet and slippery. Could it be that after having a dream last night, I still had wet dreams? What a shame. At this time, he also found that Lebi's head was resting on his lower abdomen, and as soon as it hardened there, it immediately bulged high and propped it up against Lebi's jade face. Oh no. This time it's really going to be humiliating. Naruto was so embarrassed that he didn't even dare to move his body at this time. After looking at the time, he realized that it was 8 o'clock in the morning. At this moment, Lebi groaned softly, and suddenly shrugged her cute little nose. She opened her eyes in a daze, and she seemed to smell a strange smell in her nose. ... Naruto stiffened, not moving. Then, Lebi opened her eyes and saw a big tent in front of her. The taste of obediently comes from here. She stretched out her little hand suspiciously and touched it. No! Naruto screamed in his heart. But Lebi just woke up, she didn't even know what was in front of her. Her hand quickly grabbed the bulge and squeezed it strangely, thinking it was Naruto's hand. It's hot, and it's so big. After Lebi pinched a few times, she finally stopped, and then her tender body also stiffened. Because she finally realized what it was. Rebi, you're awake. Naruto took the lead in saying hello after the two sides had been in such a stalemate for more than 10 seconds. Rebi opened her mouth sharply, and just as she was about to scream, Naruto covered her small mouth with his hand. Shish, don't yell, Naruto said nervously, straightening her body. Of shyness and embarrassment flashed in her eyes. Naruto let go of her. Rebi exhaled, her little face turned into Yuhi. Naruto, gang, I'm so sorry just now. She quickly apologized to Naruto. I accidentally played with his bottom. If Urza and the others knew about it, they would probably kill him, right? Well, I didn't expect to do such a shameful act. Really, Naruto must be troubled, right? The hardness and swelling degree of that thing, I couldn't hold it with one hand at all. I should say I'm sorry. Naruto thought that she might have smelled the smell of her wet dream, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of guilt. Lebi was such an innocent little girl, but she let her touch something so evil. No, I'm sorry. I must have made Naruto very uncomfortable. Lebi was so anxious that she burst into tears. If I had known, I wouldn't have dragged you to chat, which made you become a mess here. So, quote. She pointed to the underside of Naruto's bulging hide, and said with a guilty face. This is Chinbo. Naruto exclaimed inwardly, but Lebi seemed to have misunderstood that it was caused by him, and for a while she was like a little girl who got into trouble, a little helpless. She knows that this is the reaction that a man will have when he is tempted by a woman. If you want to eliminate it, remember to use your mouth to suck out the drawing in the adult book Urza read, or use your own body to help him get it out. However, Lebi would definitely not dare to do this. On the one hand, she was shy and couldn't make such a big breakthrough. On the other hand, if Urza and the others knew that they had touched the person they liked, they would definitely die miserably. Okay, it doesn't matter, let's get up first. Naruto urgently needs to find a place to clean it, it's sticky and uncomfortable. Rebi Yuhi stared at Naruto's tent, not knowing what to do. He must be very distressed. It's all my fault. How to do? If I let him do this, I'd be very sorry. Rebi was entangled in her heart, and suddenly she bit Kiba and held down Naruto who was about to get up. Naruto froze for a moment. Then he saw Lebi suddenly lying on top of him. Yuhi's face was dizzy, and he said shyly, Naruto, let me help you solve it. After she finished speaking, she reached out to Naruto's pants with trembling hands, and then took them off. Hey, Naruto was shocked, and before he had time to say anything, the tent was lifted, revealing the behemoth inside. A strange smell spread out. Lebi frowned, but after she bit Kiba slightly, she still firmly opened her small mouth and swallowed it. Oh! Naruto almost jumped up. This is really cool enough. Lebi's small mouth is soft, and the tongue has a special friction, which makes people want to die. At this time, Naruto had no time to stop her from such a crazy move, only to lie there and let her nibble on himself. Lebi was also confused by this strange smell, and she didn't know what she was doing. She bit Naruto hard with instinct, and her face could not help but burst into waves Yuhi, and even the root of her neck was Yuhi. Through. Moreover, she didn't dare to open her eyes to see what was in her mouth now. However, Lebi suddenly felt a strange excitement in her heart, and found that Naruto's food was simply getting better and better, and it was the same that she would never have enough. With a dangling expression, a pair of big eyes also quietly opened a gap, which was full of water and light. I don't know how long it took. Naruto finally burst out in her mouth, and a strong essence of life was sprayed into her small mouth and deep in her throat. Rebi woke up with a start, coughing violently. After a long time, she asked softly, Naruto, Naruto, are you feeling well now? Naruto was so cool, he didn't expect that a pure girl like Libby would be so lewd. When he was slutty, the flame in his heart was ignited, and when he looked at her weak appearance, he suddenly felt in his heart. There is an urge to ravage her well. Comfortable is comfortable, but, Lib, you are feeling very uncomfortable right now, right? Naruto asked, looking at her panting and her legs weak. I'm nothing. Ribi lowered her head, because she let Naruto ejaculate and ate his stuff, which made her feel guilty for doing something wrong. Now where will other requirements be made? However, Naruto couldn't help but want to tease her when he saw her forced appearance. He grabbed Lebi's arm and said with a smile, this is not good, you made me comfortable just now, I should make you comfortable now. Before Rebi could react, Naruto tore off the dress she had been wearing when she slept, revealing the little white underwear inside. Yeah, don't look at it. Lebi was so ashamed that she turned to Yuhi. Her little hands didn't stop Naruto, but tightly protected her chest. Here, it's very small here, she said with some inferiority. 804. Spoil. Naruto stretched out her two small hands to expose her chest. The small and exquisite place was actually not small, but it was incomparable to those of Lucy and Urza. It's just that Libi's body is relatively petite, so her breasts seem to be a little small. Of course, in Naruto's view, Libi's small pair of crispy breasts are still in line with the proportion of her entire body. It should be said it's not big or small, just right. Next, Naruto lowered his head and bit her white hood with his mouth, and a pair of delicate and fair little jade rabbits jumped out, opened his mouth, and entered. Lebi let out a seductive moan, which matched her entire delicate body. Trembling. Oh, Naruto, don't. It's so itchy. She struggled gently, but a pair of tender lotus-like jade arms had already hooked Naruto's neck, raised her head, and opened her small mouth slightly. The child let out bursts of groans. Naruto tasted her delicious body recklessly, and gradually his lips slid down to her flat belly, and directly drilled into her jade valley. I don't know how long it took. Lebi was dizzy and Yuhi packed up the clothes on the bed, looking at the bright yin Yuhi on the sheets. Her eyes showed a complicated look. What should I do? My body was taken away by Naruto, and I felt so comfortable just now, as if the whole person was about to ascend to the sky, and I was already his woman. However, will he still have the opportunity to do these shameful things with him in the future? Giving her body to him, Lebi didn't regret it at all. She was very happy and sweet in her heart, and hoped that Tenten could get his favor. That wonderful feeling, although it hurts, but after that it made people extremely sold. Naruto, can I be like this with you again in the future? After finally getting dressed, Yuhi asked in a coquettish voice. Naruto frowned. Ribi couldn't help but jump. Did Naruto think he was too much? That's right, it's extremely rare for a man as good as him to have a good time with him. Why do you need so many demands? There was a sudden sense of loss in Rebi's heart. However, after Naruto frowned, he gently cupped her face with his hands, kissed her forehead lightly, and said with a smile, silly girl, you are already my woman, you don't need to ask such a question, do you understand? As long as you want, I will be satisfied with you. Lebi was stunned for a moment, her eyes couldn't help showing a burst of joy. Really, Naruto, you are so good. Lebi shouted excitedly, and threw herself into his arms. Naruto hugged her delicate body and smiled slightly. Although Lebi's body is petite, she is already fully developed anyway. When making love with her, he can clearly feel her tenderness and the incomparably tight and smooth feeling underneath. How could he be willing to let her go? The two continued to linger for a while before finally leaving the hotel together. At this time, Lebi had returned to her previous appearance. Although there was still a hint of springtide on her face, but if you didn't look carefully, you couldn't tell, so the two decided to go to the guild. And Naruto read the book she helped translate yesterday. It is a very useful thing for him to read more ancient books. Days passed by 10:10. Naruto had almost read through most of the books in the Fairy Tale Guild, and if he came across something he couldn't understand, he would ask Ribi for help, and she was very happy. On this day, Naruto found a book in the library that recorded a story more than 400 years ago. This book was left by a race that had already perished. Those special words gave Naruto a headache. So, he is now asking Rib to help translate. The library was silent for a while, and Naruto looked at Lebi lying on the floor, wearing a pair of glasses and translating carefully, and thought it was simply beautiful. The short skirt covered her white thighs, and because of her petite buttocks, the edge of the plaid skirt almost exceeded the gap between her buttocks, revealing the white trousers inside. At this moment, Lebi was carefully studying, while gently swaying her hips, looking calm and absorbed. Her chest in front of her drooped down, and when viewed from the side, it was actually not small. Naruto watched from the side and felt that she was extraordinarily seductive, so he could not help walking over slowly, and before she could react, he hugged her small delicate body from behind. "Yeah, Naruto, what are you doing?" After being disturbed, Lebi couldn't help but startled. She looked back at him and said coquettishly, "I'm studying the text, don't move." Naruto smiled. "Rebi, I suddenly want it." "Ah." Lebi couldn't help but be startled. Then Yuhi's face was dazed, and she muttered in a thin voice, "But, they are doing research." "How's the evening?" "I'll do whatever you want at night." Except for the first time last time, Lebi had never done it with him again. At this time, when Naruto said this, she suddenly wanted it. The so-called taste of the marrow, the girl who tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time is most full of desire. Naruto saw that her face was full of red. How could she hold back? Anyway, Lebi was already his own woman, and it was okay to play a little trick every now and then. Thinking like this, he put his lips together and whispered in her ear, "Lebi, don't move like this, you can study yours, and leave the rest to me." Lebi was stunned, not knowing what Naruto was going to do, but the next moment, she couldn't help exclaiming, because Naruto's hands suddenly climbed up on her pair of little white rabbits that were hanging slightly and gently knead it. Naruto, how can I study it like this? It's annoying, it's so itchy." Lebi's delicate body twisted slightly, and a strange feeling of numbness from her chest made her she couldn't concentrate. How to do research. Naruto is so bad. 805. Sign the contract. However, Naruto didn't stop because of this. He smiled and said, "Rebi, this is also a test for you. If you can still study under this situation, your magic and research ability must be there will be great progress." Quote. Really, Naruto, you are clearly playing tricks on me." Ribi Yuhi shouted with dissatisfaction, but she found that she was very happy in her heart. Being treated like this by Naruto, she has a kind of soul the feeling of flying. Gradually, Naruto's hands were no longer satisfied with being outside, and suddenly slipped quietly into the inside of her clothes, lifted the cover inside, and grabbed one in each hand. You messed up my clothes." Lebi twisted her waist and looked back at him with watery eyes. "It's alright, I'll sort it out for you later." Naruto played recklessly, and the feeling in his hand was infinitely beautiful. At this moment, there was a footstep sound outside the library, and when Lebi heard it, she was shocked and shouted, "Naruto, hurry up, reach out. Someone is coming." Naruto sensed it carefully, stretched out his hand, and after a while, a person walked into the library. It was Bisca. She also happened to come in to read a book. It's just that she didn't see Naruto and Ribi hiding in the corner of the bookshelf. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief, and regardless of the fact that Bisca was not far in front, he reached out and slipped into Rebi's clothes again and started to play. Rebi was attacked again, so she couldn't help but opened her mouth and exclaimed, but she immediately blocked her own mouth with her hand to prevent herself from screaming, for fear of any movement here. Discovered by Bisca. In fact, Naruto had already set up a small barrier near him and Ribi to wrap him and her, so even if Bisca walked in front of him, he would definitely not be able to see it. Seeing her nervous look, Naruto couldn't help but want to tease her. He suddenly withdrew his hand, then lifted up her plaid skirt at once, hooked his fingers, and quickly took off her panties. All of a sudden it faded to the thigh. "Ah, Naruto, what are you doing, Naruto?" Lebi exclaimed, her face full of nervousness, but her voice was low and urgent. Naruto was very interested. Seeing how nervous she was, he took out his belongings and slammed them all in from behind. Lebi raised her head sharply, and her petite body was pushed forward by Naruto, almost hitting the bookshelf. Touch the deepest." Lebi opened her small mouth and was almost suffocated by this sudden sense of fulfillment. At this moment, she was completely out of her mind, and she held her head up for a long time without returning to her senses. Buttocks from behind her. No, Naruto, yes, it will be discovered. Ah, it's so comfortable, Lebi whimpered in an extremely small voice while covering her small mouth. There were tears in the corners of her eyes, and she didn't know whether it was because she was about to cry or she couldn't control it because she was too comfortable. Biska was reading a book not far away. Because of the barrier, she didn't realize that there was a battle between Lebi and Naruto not far from her. Lebi's face is full of ecstasy. Where is there time to do research? With Naruto's constant impact, her body soon couldn't hold it up anymore, her hands could no longer support her body, and she lay on the ground softly. Softened down. This state has been going on for dozens of minutes, and Lebi has reached the peak 3 times in a row before stopping. At this time, Biska finally went out. Lebi sat on Naruto's body incomparably, and said in a sullen voice, "Naruto, you bullied me. It's so abhorrent, I didn't expect you to be so bad." Time. Naruto smiled. Who is too tempting? I can't help it. Lebi looked engrossed in reading a book, exuding that intellectual aura, which really made people want to be ravaged. When he got home in the evening, Naruto still reminisced about the feeling of having sex with Lebi in the library. He found that when Lebi was extremely nervous, it was so tight that he couldn't speak, it was so comfortable. It seems that I will have to play a little more tricks in the future. Anyway, it's your own woman, you have to know how to enjoy it. Why did you come back so late? As soon as Naruto entered the door, Angel's voice rang in his ears. She came over yawning with a boring look on her face. I'm bored these days. Naruto, come up with something for me to do. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and immediately said, you have no right to mention this now. Compared to sitting in prison, I am definitely more comfortable. After getting along for the past few days, Angier is also very well behaved, she seems to be obedient in everything, and she also listens to her own words, but the more this is, the more bad Naruto feels. If all this is really pretending as you guessed, then this woman is too scary. This can be elected actor awe. After listening to Naruto's words, Angela couldn't help but pouted quietly, sighed faintly, and then went back to the room. Naruto sat down on the sofa, and after eating some fruit on the table, a flash of light suddenly flashed around him. Naruto, a crisp voice sounded in his ears, and at the same time a white jade hand was placed on his shoulder. Naruto turned around and saw a blonde woman with glasses sitting beside him, looking at him with a smile on his face. Loki, Naruto was startled, this guy actually came out by himself. What? Are you not welcome? I'm your Protoss, but you are so incompetent, you didn't summon me for so long. I'm almost suffocated in the Protoss. Loki complained on the road. Naruto hurriedly sat next to her, leaving her body out of her range. This terrifying asexual person, Naruto has a hard time treating her as a woman now. No matter what, she feels like a she-male. 806. Exception. I'm just wondering why you can run out by yourself, it's so casual, Naruto said helplessly. Hey, I can come to this world through my own magic power. Loki saw Naruto move away a little, and immediately gave him a dissatisfied look, then leaned over and said with a smile, speaking of Naruto, that Nja actually lives with you, what would happen if Urza and the others knew about this? Quote. Naruto looked at her and suddenly said, "If you dare to talk too much, be careful, I will kill you." Just kidding. Really, it's normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, and it's not bad for a strong man like you to have several women at the same time. Loki winked at him and said, "Angel Zungjin is also a star spirit wizard, but I can't feel the power in her at all. Did you do something wrong?" "Well, she is one of the 6 demons, and her power was sealed by me as early as the first time we met," Naruto said lightly. Tisk tisk, what a ruthless man. Girls are used to protect them. Even if Angier is the general of the 6 demons, we have to touch them with the hearts of men. Really, you don't understand Lianxiangxiu. Now, I'll teach you some methods. I'm sure you will be able to keep all women in check. Loki reached for his glasses, chattering about her experience. Naruto heard sweat on his forehead. This guy is really scary. A pair of glasses, girl's body, with deodorant on his body, and what he said was all macho things. What's the matter? Don't you believe this guy? Loki smiled and said, "If you don't believe me, you can test me first. As long as this is the case, women will feel it." After speaking, Loki grabbed Naruto's palm, pinched the bulge on his chest with 2 of his fingers, and turned it gently. Loki couldn't help but let out a slight moan, and his chest suddenly became even more bulging. "It's like this. You see, I sacrificed my body to teach you. Don't tell me you still don't understand." Loki put down Naruto's hand and said with a slight yuhi dizziness on his face. Naruto couldn't help shivering, goosebumps all over his body. Although Loki's body was plump and felt very soft, but his heart was a man's psychology, it was really unbearable to do this. "I don't have any thoughts about Angier. Your things are completely useless now." Naruto's hand still had the feeling when he touched her body just now, and he said hurriedly. "Huh, are you telling the truth? If that's the case, leave her to me. I'll help you train her well." Loki's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help laughing evilly. "Although I'm a woman's body now, but I have 100 ways to make other women happy." Naruto was speechless. "If you dare to do that, I'll kill you," he said fiercely to Loki. Okay, I'm joking with you. Really, I can't even make a joke." Loki waved his hand and sighed when he saw that Naruto was really angry. "You didn't come here just to tell me these things, did you?" Naruto said after seeing that she finally stopped saying those words that made her sweat cold. I really have something to do with you." Loki nodded and said, "About the few golden keys in your hand, Gemini, Sasori and Aries. The owners of these 3 keys are now being held because of their magic power. Because of your seal, the contract can already be lifted, so they asked me to come over to discuss it with you and plan to sign a contract with you." Quote. "With me?" Naruto couldn't help but look startled when he heard the words. He originally wanted to give these 3 keys to Lucy. "Yeah, Aries told me about you and said that she liked your performance that day, so she really wanted to sign a contract with you." Loki winked at him. Naruto couldn't help thinking of the day when Angier summoned Aries to please him with his body, but he was rejected by his own words and repaired Angier severely. "I didn't expect that Aries would have a good impression of him because of this. Would he want to sign a contract with himself?" "But what about the other 2 Protoss?" "Oh, they think you're pretty good too, so go with Aries but be your Protoss." "Well, you want to be my Protoss, but I hardly ever use the power of Protoss, so I think it's better to leave these 3 keys to Lucy." Naruto pondered. "This can't be done. Protoss has already identified you. If you push them to others, they will be very sad, especially Aries. She will worship you very much." Loki shook his head and said. Naruto couldn't help sweating, and he had never heard of a hard fortress being a star spirit for others. In the end, he had no choice but to accept it. No matter how many Protoss he signed, it would have no effect on him. After a few simple procedures, Naruto signed a contract with Sasori, Gemini and Aries respectively. Among them, Naruto appreciates Gemini's ability very much. Moreover, because of Naruto's own magic power, these Protoss are in the power in his hands has also become stronger. Gemini can copy almost anyone these days. Therefore, Naruto felt that he really did not waste his energy. After getting to know them separately, leaving Aries and Loki in Naruto's house. Aries is very nervous. She is very excited to be able to sign a contract with Naruto. Until now her small face still looks like Yuhi. She knew that Angel was in the room, so she went back soon after staying here for a while. When Loki also returned, Naruto had time to rest. However, he has only now discovered that his room has been occupied by Anjair. After being stunned, he had to knock on the door. Angel, are you asleep? No, Angel's voice came. Then your bed is on the sofa in the living room, this is my room. Naruto said, even though the other party was the 6 demons, but Naruto actually let a girl come out to sleep on the sofa, which is really inappropriate. However, after Anjair was silent for a while, she opened the door, and she looked at Naruto with a pitiful look in only one pajamas. Okay, then I'll go to sleep on the sofa. Forget it, you'd better sleep in my bed. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll sleep on the sofa. Seeing that she had changed into her pajamas, Naruto could only say that after opening his mouth. Thank you, Angela thanked him. So, this night, Naruto could only sleep on the sofa. Of course, if he insisted on Anjair coming out to sleep on the sofa, it would be fine, but if he did that, it would be too much. At least it's good now. So, Naruto slept on the sofa where Anjair had slept at night, smelling the mat that still carried her body fragrance, and gradually fell asleep. However, just when Naruto was sleeping, Anjair in his room suddenly opened her eyes. A strange look flashed in her eyes. She lifted the quilt, quietly got out of bed, and came to the living room. 807. Hate. Equals 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 equals. ABC Amber CHM Converter 7.37. Trial version. Equals 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 equals. 808. Stupid. Equals 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 equals. ABC Amber CHM Converter 7.37. Trial version. Equals 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 equals. 809. Plan. Urza hid in the bathroom and did not dare to come out again. After a long time, she finally finished the bath slowly and had to face this terrifying fact. When she came to the bedroom, she found that Naruto had put the adult magazine aside and was not reading it. Naruto, Naruto, Urza bowed her head. Yuhi grimaced, speaking to him in such a weak tone for the first time. A girl who reads lust magazines will definitely not please men, right? However, this kind of thing is very normal. I don't say everything in this dormitory, but half of the people will watch it, right? However, Urza also knew that once someone found out, it would be miserable. In particular, it is still seen by the people you like, and your image in the eyes of others will be ruined all of a sudden. She sat on the bed and saw that she lowered her head and dared not look at Naruto. Naruto also sat on the edge of the bed, watching Urza come out with her underwear already changed, and a large nightgown outside. The nightgown draped softly over her body, fully highlighting her beautiful figure. You've washed it, then it's up to me. Naruto smiled lightly and walked out of the room. Urza couldn't help but be taken aback. Is there any problem? I really want to stay tonight. Naruto said back. What if I'm found out? Urza couldn't help panicking. She thought Naruto was just joking, and she would go back when she came here to play casually. I didn't expect that he really wanted to stay, so what happened next? Thinking of that kind of thing, Urza's jade face instantly turned into Yuhi. How to do? Naruto must have wanted to do that kind of thing with himself. It's really comfortable, but this is a dormitory. If you don't pay attention, the sound will be heard by the people next door. If someone else finds out by then, the guild will explode the next day. Urza felt both anxiety and anticipation in her heart. On the one hand, she was afraid of being smashed by others. On the other hand, she longed to be favored by Naruto and enjoy the feeling of flying out of the sky. After a while, Naruto finally came out of the bathroom. He was actually naked, just wrapped in a bath towel. Seeing this, Urusa couldn't help but give him a blank look. Naruto, you don't even have a change of clothes. Hey, it's alright, I'll go home and change it tomorrow. Now let's have a good time. Naruto jumped on the bed directly, pressing Urza under him by the way. Without too much language, Naruto entered directly and gently. Urza quietly opened her small mouth and whispered at the same time, "Okay, it's big." They already experienced it once, why are you still not used to it? Naruto whispered in her ear. No, it hasn't been like this for a long time. Urza turned her face away, preventing him from seeing her eyes full of spring. I remember less than 10 days ago, have you missed me for so many days? Naruto moved slightly. Well. Elsa let out a muffled moan in her throat, once again realizing this wonderful feeling of being enriched. Elsa's whole body became excited. However, she soon realized a problem and couldn't help but ask, Naruto, is the door closed? I forgot to close the door. Yeah, then go to the gate. Someone might come over at this time. Urza was so nervous that she wanted to push her away. It rises and sinks very quickly. Hello, don't be like this. You are enough for me. So deep. Urza pushed and refused, but was deeply captured by Naruto. The struggle became weaker and weaker, until finally, she was lying under Naruto with her face full of tears. Her long legs were spread wide, and Naruto had no strength all over her body, only a strange electric current flowed one after another over the body. She has no time to care whether the door is closed or not. At this moment, she is completely lost in this wonderful feeling. Fortunately, no one came to find Urza that night, and Naruto had already set up a barrier in her room. Not only could people outside be unable to come in, but they could also see and hear what was inside. Therefore, Naruto kept tossing Urza until 1 or 2 in the middle of the night, before he fell asleep peacefully with her arms around her, and Urza was already so tired that she fell asleep in Naruto's arms. At Naruto's house, Angier fell asleep on his bed early after knowing that Naruto would not come back. These days, Naruto seems to be staying home at night. Although she didn't dare to say anything, she was still a little worried. If he had a woman, he wouldn't have a chance. Lying on the bed, she could not help but secretly plan. If you want to capture Naruto's heart, you have to be by his side all the time, and now he is spending less and less time at home, which is not acceptable. Moreover, maintaining such a relationship all the time is really not an option, so there must be a breakthrough. The next night, Naruto returned home, because he spent the night in Urusa's room yesterday, but Lucy hadn't been there for a long time, so he planned to go to her place to comfort her. After a hurried dinner, Naruto said to Angier, I won't be back tonight, you can do whatever you want. Angie was stunned for a moment, but she didn't expect Naruto to go out again. Now she couldn't help but feel a little anxious. It seemed that she hadn't been close to him very much in the past few days, so she had to keep him today. Thinking like this, she suddenly bent down and said, Naruto, I'm a little uncomfortable. Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but froze for a moment. He glanced at Angier strangely, stopped and turned around and asked, what's going on? Angier covered her stomach with her hands, a trace of cold sweat broke out on her face, and she groaned slightly in pain. Seeing Naruto coming, she couldn't help but reach out and grab Naruto's arm, leaning softly and weakly against Naruto's arm. On his body, he begged in a soft tone, "Naruto, can you help me into the room? Please. I can't move." 810. Did it all over again. Naruto was a little confused by Angel's request, but after frowning slightly, he stepped forward to support her and led her into the room. However, as soon as she entered the room, Angie's feet suddenly softened, her whole body fell into Naruto's arms, Yuhi's face was dizzy, and her chest heaved up and down rapidly. "What's wrong?" Naruto couldn't help asking when she saw that she was a little different. My body is very uncomfortable, and my stomach hurts," Angela said in a low voice. "Did he eat something unclean?" Naruto asked involuntarily, and at the same time he used a trace of magic power to penetrate into her body, and after a closer inspection, there was nothing abnormal in her body. I don't know, anyway, I'm so uncomfortable right now," Angela said weakly, leaning on Naruto's shoulder. Her figure is quite good, with bumps and bumps, her skin is white and delicate as water tofu, and her body proportions are just right. It can be said that she is a very standard little beauty. However, Naruto was only stunned for a moment, then immediately recovered, and then used a force of life to turn around in her body, and asked, "How are you feeling now?" Angela suddenly felt a cool and soothing force flowing into her body. At this moment, every cell in her body seemed to be glowing with a strange vitality, becoming joyful, and she suddenly became full of energy. However, in order to continue to disguise, she still clutched her stomach and cried, "All right, it still hurts." Angela was holding it while leaning against his arm tightly. Naruto put his hand on her smooth lower abdomen, a faint green light appeared, and used medical ninjutsu to examine her well. After a while, Naruto's frowning brows gradually loosened. He found that her body was very good, the organs in her body were also very energetic, and there was no toxin or disharmony. After all this was checked, Naruto finally understood that there was only one result, and that was this guy pretending to be sick. "Why is it like this?" Naruto lowered his head and saw her face turned Yuhi, her delicate body leaning against him, and a smile appeared on her face. "This girl, interesting, is she trying to design herself on purpose? Although I don't know what she's going to do, but deliberately pretending to be sick must be for some bad purpose, right?" Thinking of this, he couldn't help but smile lightly. "If your stomach hurts, just rest for a while, maybe it will be better in a while. I won't go out for now, I'll be here with you." And Ja was stunned for a moment, her eyes couldn't help flashing a hint of joy, and then she nodded with a slight Yuhi face. "Well, thank you, Naruto. Since you want to play with you and see what tricks you want to play." Naruto laughed secretly. "Originally, I wanted to go to Luce's side, but now that Angela has gradually revealed her fox's tail, it's okay to play with her." Thinking like this, Naruto helped her sit down on the edge of the bed. Just as she was about to get up and leave, Angie suddenly grabbed his arm and looked up at him. "Naruto, can you sit next to me?" After Naruto was stunned for a while, he nodded and agreed, "Yes." Then, he also sat on the edge of the bed. And Jair stretched out her arm, lightly grabbed onto his shoulders, and then leaned her slightly Yuhi jade face against Naruto, and said softly, "Naruto, I think it will be a little better to lean on you like this. It's 1 o'clock. "Really?" Naruto smiled slightly, looking at her with a warm look on her face. She was a little confused. What did she want to do? "These days, when I think about how bad I was in the past, I get very scared, I tremble with fear, and I feel like no one can accept me anymore. Naruto, when I'm by your side, I feel a little warmth. As long as I lean on you like this, I will feel much better," Angier said in a faint tone. Naruto's arms slowly wrapped around her fragrant shoulders and said softly, "Although you have made many mistakes in the past, as long as you can really change your mind, I can forgive you, and everyone can forgive you, so you don't have to think about anything else." As he said this, he already understood Angier's plan. Does she want to have sympathy and affection for her? It's really deceiving, it's really flawless. Naruto was very angry, but at this time he suppressed his anger and said, Angie, as long as you truly regret it, I can make you do it all over again. Naruto's words made Angela startled. She couldn't help but look up into Naruto's eyes, but found that she couldn't see through the man's thoughts at all. There seemed to be layers of mist in his blue pupils, but there was a firm and bright light in them. Looking at him, Angie's mind suddenly became dazed. This man was really hard to see. As a super strong man, he doesn't have the slightest air of being a strong man. As a man, he is really very lustful, because she has seen him and the girls intimately and ambiguous, even not going home for several days and nights, but she is indifferent to such a beautiful woman at home. At this time, Naruto looked directly at Angie. Angie came back to her senses. Her heart suddenly became a little flustered, and everything that was originally planned was messed up. Because her heart is messed up. She didn't know what to do next, because she suddenly felt that this man was not hateful. He could take time to comfort an enemy like himself. He could treat and examine his pain, and this man was too delicate and considerate, even though he was an enemy, and he let himself sleep on his bed, while he himself only slept on the sofa. Looking back on all this now, Angela was surprised to find that she had never experienced it before. In a blink of an eye, she suddenly realized that she did not reject such a life. Naruto, can I really do it all over again? Unconsciously, Angela suddenly murmured and asked. 811. Sorrow. Naruto smiled and said, as long as you are sincere, anything can be achieved. Really? Angela asked in disbelief. Of course, after doing something wrong, as long as you correct it and apologize sincerely, everyone will forgive you. After hearing this, Angela suddenly lowered her head, and Naruto's words echoed in her ears for a long time. Does he really think so? If I give up the plan and become a real amnesia, will I get his approval from now on? However, there was another voice echoing in Angel's mind. No, you are just a bad guy in the Dark Guild. What qualifications do you have? You are different from him. You are a fallen angel standing in a dark corner. He is a 10 holy wizard bathed in sunlight. The two are walking very different paths. At this moment, Naruto's voice suddenly sounded. Angie, are you feeling better? Hearing this voice, Angie recovered from her thoughts. She slowly shook her head. It's still a little uncomfortable. Can you let me continue like this for a while? For some reason, she made this request again. Didn't you already plan to abandon the plan? Why do you keep pestering him so shamelessly? It seems that he is still a bad person, and the habits of bad people can't be changed. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although Naruto didn't know what she was thinking, he could see that Angie became a little strange at this moment, and there was a hint of confusion in her eyes. Angie leaned against Naruto like this, struggling constantly in her heart. After an unknown amount of time, when she woke up, she was already lying on the bed, and there was no one around, and Naruto was no longer there. Are you actually asleep? Looking outside, it was already dark. It seemed that a long time had passed, but it was not yet dawn. She quietly walked out of the bedroom and went to the living room to look around, but did not find Naruto's figure, which made her heart suddenly feel a deep sense of loss. It seems that he went out again. He didn't return home at night. Where did he sleep at night? Or in another woman's bed? After a few days of peaceful life, Naruto studied the ancient magic book while dealing with Elsa, Lucy and Ribi. Although very comfortable, but in a few days, such days will come to an end. Because, Naruto on this day finally found a passage from a book about Jareth, about the chaotic world that belonged to Jareth for hundreds of years. The most primitive power. And Jareth is the ancestor who created this great magical world. He divided the power of chaos into various attributes. For such a character, Naruto is quite looking forward to seeing him. However, this book also records an introduction to the power of chaos, as well as some events in this historical period of chaos, as well as the magic of the One. That is, the magic of returning to the source. In Naruto's mind, this may be the magic used by the power of chaos. Therefore, Naruto decided to search for the magic of 1 from now on. He also read some information from books before. Some people in this world are born with such magic power in their bodies, and some people also have this kind of magic power. Learn something about the power of chaos. What? Naruto, are you going to travel around the world? Everyone in the guild exclaimed when Naruto told Urza and the others about this decision. As before, Naruto might not come back for several years once he goes. This incident greatly disappointed Elsa, Lucy and Reeb. The three of them had tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time. How could they be separated from Naruto? When Naruto announced the news in front of everyone, although they didn't say anything, their hearts were filled with bitterness. Naruto, when will you be back? They asked. I'm going to look for something. The time is still uncertain, but I will tell everyone about some things when the time comes. Naruto glanced at everyone and said, his eyes were on Urza, Lucy, Mirage, Rebi, Juvia, Kana, Bisca and others crossed. When are you leaving? They asked again. Tomorrow. Ooh, Lord Naruto, what am I going to do when you're gone? Juvia suddenly burst into tears, and the rain fell from the top of her head. Seeing her heartbroken look, Naruto shook his head helplessly, and suddenly felt a little reluctant in his heart. Now I just leave to go to other places, and I am a little nostalgic for this place. Once I leave this world and return to other worlds in the future, will I feel more reluctant to bear it? He couldn't let go of everything here, but at the same time, the other worlds couldn't let go. Naruto felt that he was a fulfillment of time and space, and even he himself did not know where the next stop was. However, he is not willing to go on like this. He wants to find the power to control time and space. As long as he gets this power, he can travel through time and space and the world at will, and go where he wants to go. That night, when Naruto was going to find Urza, Lucy, and Reeb respectively, Juvia was secretly following him. Not only that, in addition to Juvia, several other familiar auras also stayed not far away. Mirage, Kana, Bisca, Wendy. Naruto knows that they are all reluctant to bear their own. What a bunch of cute girls. However, there are things he has to do, and he can't stay here. For the sake of a better life in the future, he can only endure a little bit now. I am sorry everyone. Naruto murmured, and his figure disappeared into the depths of the night. Back home, Naruto sat on the sofa thinking for a long time. Some things must be told to them, but he suddenly felt that once the door of time and space is opened, how should he tell them? 812. Disappeared. The next day, Naruto took the line Lee and came to the guild to say goodbye to everyone. Last night, he had already told Angela that he was going to leave, and let her decide whether to stay or go at will. When Angie heard this, she was also greatly shocked, because Naruto's request to leave was too sudden, without any warning. This made her mood extremely complicated, and she had no idea for a while, but in the end she had no way to stop him, so she could only give up. At this time, after everyone said goodbye in Naruto, everyone was very reluctant, especially the girls. Mirage and Juvia even started to cry. Really, you are like this, how can I go? Naruto came to them, wiped the tears on their faces and said helplessly. But people just can't bear it. Juvia pulled Naruto's corner of his shirt. Lord Naruto, can I go with you? Naruto smiled wryly and shook his head. I'm not really traveling, I don't even know what danger I'm doing, and it will be inconvenient to take you with me at that time, so I'm really sorry, Juvia. Hearing this, the expressions of several other girls who also had such thoughts all darkened. Parting is always sad, for Naruto, but also for Urza and the others. Therefore, Naruto didn't stay too long. After saying goodbye, he left in a hurry, no longer looking back to see their figures. After walking a long way, Naruto sighed faintly and said to a road ahead, I found out that you were not at home this morning, and I had a hunch, do you want to leave with me? As soon as the words fell, a figure quietly walked out from the street corner in front of her. Wearing a white dress, a white shawl with soft hair, and a trace of reluctance on her innocent face. She nodded. Naruto shook his head and said firmly, "I can't take you with me." Anji's body trembled, and Naruto's firm voice made her heart feel empty and empty. Her strength was sealed, she was penniless, and she had no precautions. It was really dangerous for a weak girl like herself to survive alone. Is this man really going to leave himself behind? What should I do after that? Angela found herself unable to leave Naruto after living with Naruto for a while. Naruto's sudden farewell made her lose all sense of security at once. The look on Naruto's face softened slightly, and he also felt that it was inappropriate for him to leave a girl like her. This girl has her own intentions for herself. Strictly speaking, she is her own enemy. Even if she leaves her, there is no problem, but when she thinks that her whole body's strength has been sealed by herself, she can't bear it. After all, the two also lived in peace for a while. Naruto is not hard-hearted. After reaching the city's station, Naruto also found that Angel was following him. He frowned slightly. This girl is really dead and can't go. Naruto turned around, and a figure suddenly appeared behind her. Snapped. A hand knife. Before she could react, the person was knocked unconscious. As soon as she stretched out her hand, her soft body fell into her arms. Then he made another seal, separated a clone from his body, handed Angel over to the clone, and asked him to take her away. He didn't want Angel to disrupt his plans. However, not long after the clone left, Naruto suddenly noticed a strange fluctuation in the sky, and this fluctuation was encircling the entire surrounding area with an extremely powerful rhythm. This is the fluctuation of space. Naruto was slightly taken aback. Looking up, a gray energy Uzumaki swept in the sky, accompanied by a violent wind and dark cloud lightning. Only in an instant, the originally clear sky changed suddenly. Immediately afterwards, before the people in the city could react, this strong fluctuation swept the entire area. At this moment, the tumultuous spatial fluctuations covered the entire city. With Naruto among them, he was the first to react, stretched out a huge barrier, and immediately protected himself. Then, there was a violent vibration around, and the whole earth was shaking. Naruto stood in the barrier, surrounded by gray, the whole city was shrouded in it. After a long time, Naruto untied the barrier, and everything around was presented in front of him. Only the streets, buildings, and everything in front of him disappeared, and only a piece of newly turned soil remained in place. Naruto couldn't help being astonished. What exactly is going on? The whole score disappeared in an instant. Where does this level of power come from? Could it be that there is some extremely powerful guy in the sky? The power of that space actually destroyed the entire city in an instant. Suddenly, he realized a serious problem, and the next moment his figure flashed and rushed to the place where Fairy Tail was. A few minutes later, the face of Naruto, who arrived here at the fastest speed, changed drastically. Because even the entire guild of Fairy Tail disappeared. So, everyone in the guild before was destroyed. Naruto couldn't help but suffocate. He had no such mental preparation at all. In an instant, the entire city disappeared, and the guild also disappeared. And everyone is gone. Urza, Lucy, Reeb, Mirage. Are they all destroyed? What the hell is going on here? Naruto exuded a monstrous aura. Which guy did such a thing? Even if he is a god, let him be broken into pieces. The anger that filled his heart almost drowned him, and it was also extremely regretful. If you don't leave today, the guild will have its own protection, and at least some people will survive, but people are not as good as the sky. Such an accident happened too suddenly, and there is no chance for people to react. At this moment, Naruto's heart is like a knife twisted. 813. Edris. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. He was wearing a long cloak and carrying various magical weapons on his back. Mist Gang. Naruto couldn't help but feel strange. At this moment, several more figures climbed up from the side. Natsu, Wendy, Naruto exclaimed in surprise. What the hell is going on? After Natsu and Wendy stood up, they also looked puzzled. When they saw everything around them, they all stood there with their mouths open. This fact is totally unacceptable. At this moment, Mistgang had come over. He came to everyone and said, "Don't worry, this is the phenomenon of the soul. Everyone was not destroyed and disappeared, but was absorbed into another by the power of the soul. The world." What? Another world? Naruto was shocked when he heard this sentence. Mistgang, do you know the existence of another world? Yes, Naruto. Mistgang looked at him solemnly and said, "You may be a little bit incomprehensible, but in addition to our world, there is another world that exists." A huge surprise rose in Naruto's heart. Another world. There is a different world. I thought I could only study the existence of other worlds by myself in this world, but I didn't expect that another world came to me. That being said, not only did Ursa and the others not die, but he also encountered a road to another world. Soul. Thankfully, Mistgang actually knew about this kind of thing. Who the hell is this guy? Naruto looked at him suspiciously. He had never seen this guy a few times, but every time he saw him, he found that he would use sleep magic to put everyone to sleep. Of course, Naruto didn't fall asleep, but to him the behavior is very puzzled. This is still a mysterious guy. Wendy and Natsu were also overjoyed when they heard the news, but they were puzzled again. Why are everyone being sucked out, and we have nothing to do? Not only that, Hubby beside Natsu and Shalulu beside Wendy were all fine. Hearing this question, Mistgang turned his gaze to Naruto and pleaded, "Naruto, the power of this soul has no effect on the Dragon Slayer magician, so you have not been absorbed into it. However, I think the appearance of the soul is not accidental, but the work of another world. So now, I can only ask you to go to that world and find out this secret." "Okay, leave this to us." Naruto nodded, and he looked into the sky, where the spatial fluctuations had not disappeared. Mistgang took out a bottle of strange medicine from his body, took out 3 of them and gave them to Naruto, Natsu and Wendy, and said, "Eat this thing, it will be useful in the world over there. Now, soul, your power has not disappeared. As long as you have Hubby and Shalulu flying to the sky with you, you can go to that other world." When Naruto heard it, although he didn't know why this guy knew so much, he could only trust him now. At least according to what he said, there might be hope. The next moment, the 3 of Naruto swallowed the pills in one bite. Shalulu and Hubby took Wendy and Natsu with them, and Naruto rushed into the sky with a whistle. Naruto could clearly feel the waves of space fluctuations flowing by him, but he also felt that the power of such space fluctuations was not strong, and it was far from the power he experienced when he first came to this world. Then, a burst of white light flashed past, and the world around him really changed. Even Naruto, who has experienced 2 worlds, can't help but be excited about it. This time, it is finally normal to cross a world. I didn't expect it to be so easy. And the new world that unfolds in front of us is also a great novelty for Naruto, because this world seems to be a little more beautiful than the continent of Aslant, with towering trees, huge mushrooms, huge animals, and an island floating in the sky. Is this area a tropical forest? And what are these floating islands? Naruto danced in the air with the wings of the wind, feeling the natural wind of another world. However, he suddenly discovered that although the world is beautiful, the magic of nature is very sparse, which is the opposite of Aslant. What a strange place. But it doesn't look bad. Naruto said. "Yeah, big brother Naruto, we actually came to such a world. It's amazing." Wendy also seemed very excited, and Shalulu led her to dance around. Natsu also seemed quite excited. After a while, Shalulu and Happy were both tired from flying, and the 3 of them landed on the ground. Of course, although he came to a different world, after a period of novelty, he did not forget the purpose of this time, that is, to find out everyone's whereabouts and find everyone back. However, in the vast and different world, it is really difficult to find them, and Naruto plans to use the clone to find them. At this moment, a strange building suddenly appeared in the depths of the forest in front of the three. They all froze there. Fairy tale, Natsu exclaimed first. He pointed to the guild crest on the building in front and shouted excitedly, I didn't expect that there is also a fairy tale in another world. Let's go in and have a look. Naruto was also very surprised, and followed Natsu to the guild in this other world. Unexpectedly, a fairy tale will appear at this moment. As soon as I came to the door, I heard all kinds of loud noises coming from inside. The three pushed open the door and entered. Natsu, you're back so soon. Everyone's exclamations sounded, and then, a group of familiar faces appeared in the eyes of the three Naruto. Actually, they look exactly the same. Naruto couldn't help but be shocked. At this moment, a yellow-haired beauty rushed over and grabbed Natsu by the collar, dragging Natsu in front of him, who had not yet realized what was going on, squinting her beautiful eyes and said coldly, why did you bring back two strangers? What happened to them? Natsu was sweating coldly. Isn't this Lucy in front of him? How did she become so domineering? However, before he could speak, Lucy kicked Natsu away and ran to Naruto and Wendy, staring at them with a scrutiny expression. Who are you? Where did you come from? Her tone was so bad that Naruto couldn't help being stunned. This is really different from the original Lucy. The original Lucy was a very knowledgeable and talkative girl, completely different from the one in front of her, who was wearing a leather jacket and boots and looked like a queen. Lucy, you can't do this, let Natsu explain it first. At this moment, a graceful figure came over. It was Mirage. Naruto saw her and found that she didn't change, she was still the same gentle and lovely. Natsu, if you don't give a satisfactory explanation, don't try to make it easier for me today. Lucy glared at Natsu. Natsu looked at Naruto innocently and had to explain to Lucy. Everyone gathered around and listened to Natsu's words. After a while, everyone finally understood everything, and Chi-Chi exclaimed. In that case, aren't the people in our two guilds the same? Someone asked. Well, yes. Then why have we never seen him in the guild? The man pointed at Naruto. 814, King's Troop. Immediately, everyone's suspicious eyes turned to Naruto. Yeah, if there is a fairy tale in both worlds, the members of the guild should be the same. But the corresponding guy, we have never heard of it. Lucy looked suspicious, looked at him and said. Sister Lucy, maybe the two worlds are always a little different. Wendy hurriedly stood up and explained to Naruto. Are you sure this guy belongs to your guild? Lucy turned to look at Wendy and Natsu. Wendy and Natsu nodded affirmatively. Naruto couldn't help being speechless and said lightly, Don't call me this guy, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, you can call me Naruto, many things are not so taken for granted. Humph. Are you questioning my judgment? Lucy couldn't help but get angry when she heard it. She immediately put on a fight and stared at Naruto. The people on the side hurried to persuade the fight, and then there was no fight. Naruto wiped his cold sweat secretly. Lucy in this world is really strong. It is better not to mess with her, and she has to leave this place as soon as possible. At this moment, an emergency siren suddenly sounded outside, and the expressions on the faces of everyone in the guild couldn't help tightening. It's goblin hunting, someone cried out in horror. The expressions on everyone's faces became extremely nervous. What's wrong? The three Naruto were surprised, but at this time they saw that everyone was busy quickly. Prepare to transfer. Magic filling begins. The transfer magic circle is activated. The transfer countdown starts now. One by one instructions came from Lucy's mouth, and large and small organs and instruments appeared in the guild. The gate of the guild was closed, and from the window, Naruto saw a group of soldiers besieging quickly outside, and some of them were riding a flying beast. It looks pretty awesome. Are these people here to attack Fairy Tail? You guys, why don't you even fight? Someone else is attacking your door, so you have to fight it anyway. What's the point of moving like this? Naruto said, looking at the nervous guild members. At this time, the entire guild was shaking. this is the activation of the transfer magic circle. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the guild suddenly stopped shaking. Looking out the window, the scenery has changed at this time, not in the original forest, but on the edge of a desolate desert. It's really dangerous. Everyone could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. The expressions on their faces were not so nervous, and they returned to the previous lively. However, Naruto could see that everyone's heart must be very uneasy. Is fairy tale in this world always lingering in this kind of escape? Naruto said with a sudden sigh. Hearing this, everyone could not help frowning. Staring at him, Lucy said angrily, "You guy who doesn't know anything has no right to comment on our guild behavior." Naruto was stunned. At this time, the expressions on everyone's faces became lonely and helpless again. Mirage came over and explained faintly, "In your world, fairy tale may not be so bad, right? In Edris, our fairy tale is the last magician's guild. Other guilds it has already been slaughtered by the king's troops, and now we are the only ones who are still running away." Hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but ask, "Why are the king's troops hunting you down?" "Hey, this world is far from free like you. Here, the Magician's Guild is regarded as a reactionary and evil party, and it is the target of the government army. Possessing magic is a crime." Mirage looked sad. "This is really bad. I didn't expect the guilds in this world to be in such a bad situation." However, these things have nothing to do with Naruto. At this time, although I really want to take care of things in another world, my most important task at present is to rescue everyone who was sucked over. Okay, everyone, let's drink something to suppress the shock. When the atmosphere was a little heavy, a beautiful woman with long waist-length blue hair came over. She was wearing a low-cut dress, and the huge breasts on her chest, at least it looks like a D cup. "Yeah, it's useless to talk about this kind of thing, Wendy." Lucy shook her head and reached for a glass of juice from the beauty's plate. "Wendy." Naruto stared at the long-haired beauty in front of him. She had grown so well, she was simply a flawless existence. "The kid over there is a bit like me," Wendy said, looking at little Wendy beside Naruto. "Is it actually me when I grew up? This is so big." Little Wendy was immediately stunned, seeing that she had grown so big in this world, and still had such an explosive figure. She couldn't believe it. At this moment, in a corner, a girl with short white hair was staring blankly at Naruto and the others. Her eyes were full of disbelief and deep surprise. "By the way, do you know? The fairy tale of our world disappeared along with the entire city. It was said that it was absorbed into this world. Do you know what happened?" Naruto asked suddenly. "This kind of thing, it is estimated that the king did it. The magic power on this continent comes from the earth, and there is not much magic power in the air itself, so when the magic power is continuously consumed, it will be exhausted one day, so the king is in a special way to plunder the life and magic of other worlds. Maybe your companions have been brought over," Lucy explained. Naruto frowned. It seems that the goal now is to directly target the king. "Where is the capital?" Naruto asked again. Everyone's expressions changed, and Lucy exclaimed, "Are you going to the capital?" "Yes, I have to rescue my friends." Naruto nodded. Natsu and Wendy also nodded in agreement. "Are you going to die? The king is the gathering place of the king's power, where there are countless strong men and armies. You can't fight against them, and I think your companions have now become magic. Go." 815. Arrive at the royal capital. "I believe that they will not die easily. Even if they become magic, I will restore them all," Naruto said lightly. His body exudes a lingering aura, which makes people unconsciously believe him. "Okay, since that's the case, I'll take you to the capital," Lucy said suddenly, looking at Naruto. Lucy, how are you?" Everyone was puzzled. Lucy turned her head and smiled slightly. "It's rare that there are people who dare to rebel against the king. Don't you think this is a very interesting thing? However, this is not practical, right? Everyone is not optimistic." Naruto looked at Lucy. "Thank you, then please. Let's go." Lucy took the magic prop and went out. "Naruto, Natsu, and Wendy followed, and she led them to the capital. Along the way, Naruto and Natsu felt that their walking speed was too slow. "Let's fly over," Naruto said. "Flying?" Lucy was taken aback and asked involuntarily. "Well, I walk there like this, but I don't know how long it will take," Naruto said helplessly. "Yeah, if that's the case, Lucy, you just give us the direction, let's fly all the way." "Happy," Natsu shouted. "Yes," hubby responded, suddenly spreading his wings and flying into the air. Shalulu also flew at the same time. "Super, beyond." Lucy was shocked when she saw this, and then her face showed hostility. "It's really careless, there really is something wrong with the origins of you guys, why is there a transcendence-sama?" Lucy immediately took out the weapon on her body, a long whip, and stared at Naruto and the others with vigilance. "Hey, what transcendence, they are Harpy and Shalulu." Naruto couldn't help but feel strange when she saw her look like a formidable enemy. "The Transcendence is a race of gods in this world. The overlords of our entire human race, including the plundering of magical resources from other worlds, are all sent by the king of their race," Lucy said. "I see, it seems that this Harpy and Shalulu have something to do with this world." Naruto couldn't help but ponder. Every world is not so simple, and this world is the same. I didn't expect that Harpy and Shalulu were called here for the transcendent, godlike existence. Because people in this world cannot use magic. If people want to use magic, they must rely on magic props, but transcenders do not have this restriction. They have magic power in their bodies. They can fly freely in the sky, and they also have powerful strength as something that we humans can't compare to. Lucy said this, and looked at hubby and Shalulu in awe. Naruto frowned. He knew the strength of Happy and Shalulu. Even if they had the ability to fly, their strength was almost negligible. Could it be that human beings in this world have a wrong perception of transcendence? Or, is the transcendence of this world really strong? Naruto suddenly had a feeling of wanting to meet the transcendence of this world. If he could really see the power of God, that would be a very good thing. Of course, the premise is that everyone must be rescued first. "Okay, Lucy, I can guarantee that hubby and Shalulu are not the transcenders you mentioned. They are members of the Fairy Tale Guild and our friends." Naruto stepped forward and said to Lucy. Only then did Lucy withdraw her weapon and asked dubiously, "How can I trust you?" Naruto smiled slightly. "Since you chose to take us to the capital, didn't you already believe us?" Lucy was startled when she heard this. "Okay, now let's go to the capital first. This time we'll use flying." As soon as Naruto finished speaking, Shalulu and Harpy had already brought the two of them to fly. Then, a pair of invisible wind wings suddenly appeared behind Naruto, and looked at Lucy with a smile. "Let's go, let's fly out too." However, Lucy had already opened her mouth wide and looked at Naruto with a look of incomparable surprise. You actually know magic. You didn't use any props." Lucy was startled, and she couldn't believe the scene in front of her. "I didn't expect Naruto to be able to use magic without using props. Is this the magician of Iceland continent? Impressive." Lucy looked envious. "Okay, take us to the capital first." Naruto couldn't help but smile when she saw her unbelievable look on her face. Oh, Lucy came back to her senses, only to see Naruto reaching out and wrapping her slender waist, and then her body gradually vacated. Lucy's body trembled, her face slightly yuhi, and when he was hugging her waist, she couldn't help but feel a strange feeling. However, when she found herself flying in the air by Naruto holding her waist, she couldn't help but immerse herself in the feeling of looking down at the earth. And, most importantly, being held by Naruto like this, she suddenly felt a strange feeling in her heart. Very strange, this had never happened before. "In which direction?" Naruto asked in her ear. Lucy hadn't regained her senses, but she couldn't help but stun for a moment. "Ah. What? I asked you which direction the capital is in." Naruto asked again. "Oh, there." Lucy then reacted and pointed to the front. "Okay, That's speeding up. Naruto looked at the direction, the wings of the wind fully opened, and immediately caught up with Natsu and Wendy in front. The three flew to the distant sky together. King's capital. A prosperous scene is completely opposite to the scene outside the capital. The outside is a primitive natural scenery, and the bustling scene in the capital seems to be out of tune with it. The people inside all had smiles on their faces, and they seemed to be very happy under the light of His Majesty the King. This is the royal capital. It's so elegant. Naruto couldn't help sneering when he was just outside the capital. Could this prosperous scene come from plundering the resources of another world? 816. Disappointed. Hee, there is a lot of magic in the capital, and the master of the royal army has a lot of magic props. In order to facilitate the rule, they have vigorously suppressed and arrested those of us who have magic props in the guild. Lucy couldn't help but sneered, mocking Road. Magic belongs to everyone. This system of totalitarian autocracy really needs to be changed. Naruto nodded and asked, haven't you thought about uniting a group of uprising troops for breakfast? Lucy was startled by Naruto's words. She didn't expect him to be so bold. He could even say things like rebellion. She hurriedly shook her head and said, Naruto, even if you are from another world, you have been overheard saying this. It will be miserable too. Besides, those of us who are able to use magic items, even self-protection has become a problem, let alone resisting them. Quote. Naruto frowned, and what Lucy said was also, every world has its unreasonable places. Seeing this kind of thing, he instinctively rejected it, but so what? This is just another world, and to me it's just an insignificant stop on a long journey. He has no right to manage these things and has no reason to change it. Sighing slightly, Naruto said, Lucy, now let's sneak into the capital and prepare to rescue those who have been absorbed. Well, good. Lucy nodded, a strange look flashed in her eyes. Because we are still very unfamiliar with this place, we need you to be your guide when we enter the capital. Naruto said to Lucy when the four entered. No problem, I will take you into the city, but correspondingly, the magic props on me have to be hidden somewhere. Lucy said. She found a corner on the side of the road, and put the magic props on me. The whip was thrown there. When entering the city, as expected, there were Kingdom Army soldiers at the gate of the city checking the salutes of people entering and leaving. Once you find a magic weapon or something, grab it and take it away. Naruto and the others don't have these things, so it's easy to pass. When they got to the city, Lucy took everyone to a hotel and asked for 2 rooms, and then led Naruto and the 3 to a narrow and remote alley. In the alley, there is a basement entrance. After Lucy entered carefully, there was a large hall inside unexpectedly. Welcome to the black market. A short, shrewd-looking man walked over and said to the 4. This is the black market, where we can buy the magic items that we need in battle. Lucy introduced familiarly. The trading of magic items here will never be known to those guys in the Royal Army under normal circumstances. So you can buy it with confidence, but the price is more expensive. Quote. As she said that, she bought a long whip with the fire attribute from the boss, and spent most of her money, showing a pained expression on her face. It's really tough. Naruto finally saw the hard life of a magician in this world. However, the workmanship of this whip is much better than the magic props on the continent of Iceland. The magician in this world cannot use magic by himself, but the level of use and creation of tools has reached a very high level. After leaving the black market, it was already a little late, and the sky was getting darker, and the group returned to the hotel, planning to rest for a while and wait until the evening before moving. That night, the 4 of them were in the room, resting silently. Lucy suddenly stood up and stretched her waist and said, I'm a little uncomfortable, I'll go take a shower first. Yeah. The 3 of Naruto nodded and began to discuss how to sneak into the kingdom's army and get the whereabouts of their partners. In the end, it was up to Naruto to decide to search for clues in the city separately. After all, as long as they don't mess around, with the magic level of Natsu and Wendy, they won't encounter much danger, and it's within the city's range. Naruto can also always pay attention to their breath. After the discussion, everyone suddenly found that Lucy had been in the bath for more than 10 minutes, and she hadn't come out yet. Naruto frowned, looked at Wendy and said, "Wendy, can you take a look at Lucy?" "Plan to act." Wendy replied obediently, and ran to the bathroom to take a look, when a sudden scream came from her mouth. Naruto's expression changed, and Natsu rushed to the door of the bathroom without caring about anything and rushed in. Unexpectedly, the bathroom is empty. Where is Lucy? What's going on? Natsu asked confused. Naruto was also very puzzled. He spread out his perception and searched the surrounding area. In an instant, he captured a familiar breath a few kilometers away from here. "Lucy, did you escape?" At this time, Naruto realized this problem, and he couldn't help feeling puzzled and disappointed. "I thought that Lucy would act with me, but I didn't expect her to escape. It seemed that she didn't want to be involved in this matter at all." He was really careless. He didn't have any defense against Lucy at first, so he didn't pay attention to her breath all the time, which caused her to react after running out so far. "Why?" Naruto sighed. Seeing the disappointed expressions on Natsu and Wendy's faces, he couldn't help but say, "Okay, let's leave Lucy's business alone for now. She has no obligation to be with us, and it's more difficult to leave." "Well, don't worry about getting her down." When the two heard the words, their expressions softened a little. Next, the three of them divided their troops into 3 groups and searched and explored the city in the dark. After Naruto's perception spread just now, he discovered that there was a huge magical crystalline aura in a place in the city, so he sneaked in that direction, intending to check the situation. Wendy and Natsu looked in the other 2 directions. At this time, Lucy, who was running out of the city, suddenly stopped, with a hesitant look on her face. 817. Restoration. She was struggling in her heart. Did she really want to leave them behind and leave secretly? This will be completely underestimated by them. However, when she thought about it, she felt that her thoughts were ridiculous. What was the importance of face in life? Life is gone, so what's the face? Besides, he and them have only just known each other for a day, and it is a matter of benevolence and righteousness to be able to guide them here. There is no need to do so much, and I and my guild companions cannot die in such a stupid thing. Thinking of this, Lucy smiled relievedly, but for some reason there was a bitter arc at the corner of her mouth. Naruto's figure and his impressive blue eyes flashed in her mind, and she seemed to be able to see his disappointment. This could not help but shake her original idea. What the hell happened to me? I'm Lucy from Fairy Tale. When did you become so indecisive? Lucy quickly shook her head, removed the messy thoughts in her mind, and continued to walk forward. At this time, Naruto had come to the vicinity of the huge magic crystal, and only then did he realize that it was a wide square, and a magic crystal the size of a building was being piled up at the center of the square, and there was another one around. A high platform with the national flag on it. The most important thing is that on the edge of this huge magic crystal, there is a group of royal army patrolling back and forth. It seems that this huge magic crystal is very important. This is even more suspicious. He no longer hesitated, and walked directly towards the huge magic crystal. At this time, he heard the voices of the soldiers talking. Are you saying that this huge magic crystal is the magic power plundered from Iceland? Yeah, I heard so. Oh, His Majesty the King is really great. Such a big magic crystal is enough for us to use for a long time. Hey, yeah, so our country will become stronger and stronger. Hearing this, Naruto had basically determined that this huge magic crystal was transformed by everyone in Iceland. Damn it. Naruto scolded, thinking that Urza and the others were turned into magic crystals. The anger in his heart rose. The guy who dares to touch his own woman must not let him live. The speed of his feet increased, and he quickly appeared on the edge of the magic crystal. Who is it? At this time, the soldiers reacted, and immediately rushed over nervously and asked loudly, Who are you? It is forbidden to approach here, hurry up and leave. A soldier commander ran over and said. Naruto was unmoved. He looked at them coldly. A gust of momentum rose with the wind. Hey, you guy, we are asking you something, the commander said angrily. The next moment, only to hear a loud bang, and a powerful magic energy suddenly emerged from Naruto's body. The energy formed a gust of wind Uzumaki, which swept away like a storm. Those soldiers didn't have time to realize what happened, and their bodies were drowned and disappeared by this wanton energy. The whole city was shaken by it, and the people inside the palace in the center of the city were also awakened one after another, looking at the strong light shining in the direction of the square. The king got up from the bed, his face full of surprise, and he cried out, "That's the direction of the square. The magic crystal there." One of the leaders of the 4 major armies of the royal army, Huge Boy, led the charge towards the square. At the same time, in a certain underground passage, Wendy and Shalulu were walking forward. Shalulu, are you sure what you have in your mind is true? I always feel that I should go back and discuss with Naruto brother first, Wendy said with some worry. Wendy, don't always be Big Brother Naruto. Big Brother Naruto, please be a little more assertive. I can feel that the information in my mind is correct. You see, we didn't get here very smoothly along the way. If we keep going like this, we will be able to infiltrate the palace smoothly. Your brother Naruto will definitely praise you at that time. Quote. That's right. If you can get the praise of Naruto's brother, that would be really good. Wendy's fighting spirit immediately became high when she heard this. Shalulu, let's move on. Hee, this is the style of the Dragon Slayer. Shalulu laughed. However, at this moment, there was a sudden sound of sonorous footsteps around. Just when Wendy and Shalulu turned around in surprise, a huge net suddenly fell from the top of their heads, covering them firmly. What is this? Wendy tore it hard, but found that the net was so strong that she couldn't break free. At the same time, a few swoops sounded, and countless weapons were already clamped around Wendy's neck. Leading the way is a beautiful woman with long red yuhi-colored hair. Naruto looked at the fallen crowd around him, and after sneering, he stretched out his hand and pressed it on the huge magic crystal. He can feel the energy of life coming out from it, which proves that this magic crystal is indeed the result of everyone's changes. Closing his eyes, the energy in Naruto began to enter the magic crystal. The magic crystal suddenly emitted a burst of strong white light. The next moment, the white light flashed, and the magic crystal disappeared. However, what is surprising is that Urza, Lucy, Gray, Juvia and others are all standing in front of them. There was a hint of confusion in their eyes, as if they didn't know what was going on, and they couldn't help but feel a little dazed when they looked at the unfamiliar environment around them. Naruto, Urza asked, what is this place? A smile appeared on Naruto's face. You guys are finally recovering. Get out of here now and tell you everything later. After speaking, there were bursts of roars not far away. It was the sound of the troops of the kingdom's army coming. Follow me first. Naruto glanced at the people chasing not far away. He waved his hand, and with the recovered Urza they quickly disappeared into the depths of the darkness. 818. Fierce Battle. So it is. So, everyone has been turned into a magic crystal. After listening to Naruto's explanation in the hotel, Urza and the others finally understood what happened. Yeah, the strange thing is that there are only a few of us here, and the rest of the guild doesn't seem to be here. Naruto nodded, and said with some doubts, even the president is not there, so it seems, there may be magic crystals in other places. Just the magic power of Urza, Lucy, Gray, and Juvia can be turned into such a huge magic crystal. Makarov and the others together will definitely be even bigger. Moreover, many people in the entire city contain magical powers, so the goal will only be larger. In this way, as long as someone else's magic crystal is found, everything will be solved. Naruto has just discovered that when his power flows into the magic crystal will return to everyone's original state, and finding out the whereabouts of those magic crystals has become the most important thing at present. However, the disappearance of the magic crystal must have caused a huge sensation within the royal army. It is obviously not that easy to investigate further. Therefore, Naruto decided to let everyone retreat first, and let him investigate by himself. After all, with his own strength, let alone finding a huge magic crystal, even a needle is not impossible. No, now that we are all here, we must come to wish you a helping hand. Urza objected, and Lucy, Gray, and Juvia all nodded. However, Urza suddenly frowned and exclaimed. She looked down at her hands and asked in shock, "Why can't my magic be used?" What's the matter?" asked Lucy hastily. "I can't use magic either," Gray cried. "Me, I can't either. I can't use magic at all." Juvia was also panicked. Naruto frowned for a while, waved his hand, and said calmly, "Don't worry, I think your power may be limited by the laws of this world, and you can't use the magic in your body here." "Then why can you?" Lucy asked hurriedly. Naruto glanced at her and found that the original Lucy was actually more pleasing to the eye. The queen's character of this world's Lucy was a bit inconsistent. He explained, "Before coming, Michigan gave me this and Wendy took a strange drug, probably because of this, now only the 3 dragon slayers here can use magic. Damn, what can I do? Where is Mistgang? I didn't expect this guy to have such a thing." Urza stamped her feet angrily. Without her magic power, she became an ordinary person and couldn't help at all what a busy. "So you find a safe place first." "Oh yes. I have a good place." Naruto suddenly thought of Lucy in this world. If she was asked to lead everyone to the fairy tale guild here first, he would not need to worry. And he thought that everyone would get along very well. Naruto launched the perception network, and suddenly found that Lucy in this world has not yet left the city, and now his breath seems to be coming this way. A strange look appeared on his face. At this moment, his complexion changed slightly, because he found that Wendy's breath appeared in the direction of the distant palace, and Natsu's breath also went to the other side of the palace. These 2 guys won't break into the palace, will they? Moreover, the breath of Harpy and Shalulu didn't seem to be around them either. Naruto was a little worried. This is really messed up, although their strength is not bad, but after all, they are still unable to be hostile to the power of the entire kingdom. Thinking of this, Naruto left a clone to arrange things here, and the main body rushed out with a goodbye. Inside the palace, Natsu was frantically attacking a group of kingdom troops. Because when he and hubby were looking for clues, the 2 were suddenly attacked and fell to the ground. When he woke up, he found that he had been bound by ropes. However, Natsu's strength was also extraordinary. These ropes he couldn't restrain him, and when he was burned by his flame, he instantly turned to ashes. Immediately afterwards, Natsu started a fierce battle with a group of people around him. His strength is not weak, the ordinary royal army is not his opponent at all, but soon, the captains of the 3rd and 1st troops of the royal army appeared here, Hughes and Lily respectively. Unusually, Natsu was caught in a tough fight, and as more and more troops rushed over, his condition was getting worse and worse. At this moment, the gate of the palace. Naruto kicked open the gate of the palace. It was still late at night. The soldiers guarding the gate fell to the ground. After the gate was kicked open, the sound of Natsu and everyone fighting came from inside the palace. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Natsu was fine, and his energy was still very strong. It's just that Wendy didn't seem to be moving. Because most of the troops were attracted by Natsu's firepower before, now after Naruto broke into the palace, there was not much defensive force. The 4th part of the right huge boy is still investigating the square, the 1st and 3rd units are fighting against Natsu, and now only the 2nd unit can be dispatched. Seeing that Naruto kicked the door open with one kick, and there was no one around to stop him, the kingdom army who came to stop him was a little scared. When there is no captain coming, they are just a mess, and they can't fight against him just relying on some small commanders. Let me get out of the way of everyone who knows me. I just want to find my friends, Naruto said in a light tone with a cold look on his face. Who dares to come here to do wild things? At this moment, a voice that made Naruto somewhat familiar sounded from overhead, and in the next instant, a gust of wind came down. Naruto frowned, and then his head didn't look too much, so he stretched out his palm and stopped at the top of his head. A powerful magic beam emerged from the palm of the hand and was launched with a bang. Boom boom boom. There was an explosion in midair. With a muffled groan, a figure was slammed into the air. Boom. Jinchuriki column in the palace and fell to the ground again. However, the other party quickly got up, dodged and rushed towards Naruto again. Come on. A familiar voice accompanied by the graceful figure finally entered Naruto's sight. I saw that the other party was holding a long spear, and a black magic light appeared from the tip of the spear. Gun of gravity. The gun approached Naruto, and Naruto couldn't help but be taken aback, because he didn't expect that Urza in this world would also appear, and she was still such a formidable enemy. However, Naruto quickly came back to his senses, his figure flashed in an instant, and he reached out and grabbed the spear in Urza's hand in the blink of an eye. Urza was shocked, she didn't expect this enemy to be so powerful. How easy it is to grab his own gravity gun. This was a powerful attack, but he was caught with his bare hands. This made her feel incredible. What kind of existence is a guy with this level of power? When she looked up, she met Naruto's disdainful eyes. Then, she suddenly felt a burst of pain in her abdomen, and the next moment, the person had already flew out to the rear. 819. Hostage. So strong. This is a thought in Urza Olympian. Immediately after that, before she had time to regain her senses, Naruto had dodged and left the place and went to the depths of another corridor in the palace. Although meeting Urza in this world made him kind of surprised and curious, the most important thing at the moment was to find Wendy. Damn, do you want to run? Urza's voice sounded from behind, and Naruto turned around, only to see that she had climbed up from the ground again and was chasing after him. Naruto ignored her. He had already tested her strength just now, which was comparable to that of Idris Urza, and was not threatening to him. The two chased and fled, and Naruto ran towards the place where Wendy's breath was sensed, as if it was somewhere underground in the palace. Urza was chasing at the rear with a spear in hand. The pain from her abdomen made her clearly realize the horror of this man, but she would never be afraid of it and give up her responsibilities. Those who dare to disturb the palace must be arrested and punished severely. Gradually, there were no other people around, only Urza and Naruto were left running. Naruto frowned slightly, not expecting this guy to be difficult to deal with. There was a door ahead, and Wendy's breath came from there. Suddenly, a painful scream came from the door, and Naruto's face tightened, and in the next instant, a large amount of strong lightning burst out from his whole body, and slammed into the big giant in front of him with a bang. Iron Gate. Boom. In an instant, the iron gate shattered, and bursts of exclamations sounded inside. Naruto just saw Wendy fall to the ground, and there were several people around her, one of whom was holding a strange implement in his hand. Get out of here. Seeing that Wendy fell to the ground, what these people had done to her, Naruto, in a fit of rage, shoved forward with both hands, and a strong surge instantly appeared in the palms of both hands. The thunder light boomed twice, and several people in the house were instantly drowned by the thunder light. Thunder magic. When the thunder light dissipated, only Wendy was left lying on the ground, and the rest were all wiped out by the thunder light. Not even a corpse was left. He appeared beside Wendy in a flash, picked up her delicate and tender body, and found that her body was intact, but the magic in her body seemed to be drained. Turning his head and looking at the tubular object on the ground, it seems that this object has absorbed Wendy's magic power. These guys, it turned out that they had captured Wendy and wanted to extract her magic power. Really careless. I thought Wendy must be investigating somewhere, but she was caught. Wendy's breath was intact, she thought nothing had happened to her, so she was caught before a fierce battle. Who did it? At this moment, Naruto was very angry, and he would never forgive anyone who dared to hurt Wendy. At this moment, a figure rushed in. It was Urza. She quickly picked up the things on the ground, saw Naruto hugging Wendy, and sneered, "Intruder, surrender now. Otherwise, your fate will be miserable." Naruto stood up with Wendy in his arms, carried her on his back unhurriedly, and looked at Urza in this world. "I ask you, Wendy is here, who did it?" His tone was cold, with a chill. Urza frowned. She instinctively felt the danger of Naruto, but she still had no plans to retreat. "Are you talking about this girl? She is our target, and it was I who caught her here." Urza glanced at the magic power extraction device in her hand, and said lightly, "But it seems that it is not needed now. This girl is of no use to us." A cold light flashed in Naruto's eyes. Looking at Elsa holding a spear and her heroic appearance, she couldn't help but think of the original Elsa. The two really look exactly the same. However, she is not the original Urza after all. She is a person from this world, strictly speaking, her own enemy. It's the guy who hurt Wendy. "Really? What do you want to do when you draw Wendy's magic power?" Naruto laughed angrily, but at this time he wanted to ask what these guys were going to do. No matter what they want to do, they have to destroy it to vent their dissatisfaction. It is really unpleasant to casually turn things in another world into magic power, and casually deprive another world of life. "This is our secret, how can we tell you?" Urza sneered. "Okay, since you didn't say anything, then I'll ask you another question. Where did you hide the people you absorbed from the continent of Iceland?" Naruto asked again. "Are you referring to the magic power collected by the soul?" "Hehe, that is the hope of our kingdom, and it will be the source of endless magic power in the future. You should stop talking about this nonsense." Naruto was silent for a while, and then he smiled silently. The next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared. A vigilant look appeared on Urza's face, but just as she showed this look, Naruto appeared behind her. Snapped. A hand knife slashed on Urza's slender, white and tender neck. Well. Urza's whole body was shocked, her beautiful eyes widened, and then with a bang, her body was soft to the ground. Naruto picked up her body and walked out directly. Back at the place where Natsu was fighting, Naruto found that a group of people had surrounded Natsu, and Natsu was blazing with scorching flames, bombarding the surroundings indiscriminately. But Naruto clearly felt that his magic power was insufficient, and if he continued to fight, he would probably lose. "Stop me!" Just when Natsu was about to take it, Naruto's voice suddenly rang in the ears of the royal army. Everyone looked up and saw Naruto standing on a high platform, holding Urza's collar with one hand, lifted her up, and said lightly to everyone, "This should be your captain, right? She is now in mine. If you don't want her to die in your hands, stop your hands and let your king come out to see me." 820. Blasphemy. King. Can you see the king too? The people around were furious when they heard the words. Seeing their righteous indignation, Naruto thought it was a little funny. To them, he was like a terrorist, right? At this moment, Urza in Naruto's hands suddenly woke up faintly. She opened her eyes and found that she was actually being held by the neck, and she was about to turn around and attack. However, how could Naruto make her wish? With the hook of his arm, he easily restrained her neck, and at the same time, her delicate body was completely controlled by him in his arms. "Don't move. You are my hostage now," Naruto whispered in her ear. The hot breath entered Urza's ears, and Urza's silver kiba bit her tightly. With a face of shame and anger, she was actually held hostage by him. This is really shameful. As the captain of the second unit, being held hostage by the enemy is the greatest insult of being a captain. "You, no matter what you do, attack me." Urza raised her head with difficulty and yelled at the soldiers below. "But quickly do it for me. Otherwise, you will be disobeying the military order," Urza shouted loudly. She's a stubborn woman, just like Urza of Iceland. However, even so, Naruto did not have any panic. He smiled lightly and said to Urza, "As an army commander, you have done a good job. I appreciate you very much, but what you have done hurt my friends. This is I will never forgive." Urza was stunned for a moment, and she said with difficulty, "If you want to kill or cut it, you can. Even if I die, I will not be a burden to everyone." After speaking, she opened her mouth sharply, her tongue stuck out, and her mouth was about to close. At this moment, Naruto quickly reached out and grabbed her mouth again, and said in a cold voice, "Do you want to bite your tongue and commit suicide? Really loyal guy, but your king still didn't show up to save you, this is what you are doing. A loyal fellow, it turns out to be nothing more than a weak coward. Damn it, we fought you." The soldiers saw that their captain had no resistance at all in Naruto's hands, and even heard him mocking and insulting their king like this, which made everyone feel a strong anger. At this time, Lily and Hughes, the captains of the 1st and 3rd units, led a group of subordinates to rush to Naruto. "Let go of Urza. What kind of hero is taking a hostage?" Lily yelled. Naruto sneered disdainfully, "I just wanted your king to come out. I didn't expect him to be a coward. He only knew that he would shrink up and let his subordinates bear it. It's really disappointing. Don't worry about me, just attack. Even if I die, I will sacrifice for the country. This is my honor." Although Urza was grabbed by Naruto, she still tried her best to cry out. Naruto was a little moved by this insistence. However, Naruto would not let her go. He glanced at the royal army who had surrounded him, and the two captains Lily and Hughes standing in front, and said blankly, "Are you sure you can kill me? If you don't let your king come out, I won't let go of Urza." It's despicable. Everyone secretly bit Kiba and gnashed their teeth, seeing that Urza was powerless to resist in Naruto's hands, and they were also greatly afraid of his strength. After a stalemate like this for a while, the king still didn't show up, and even the people in the kingdom's army didn't know why. How could the king not show up when such a thing happened? At this moment, a few figures suddenly flew down in midair, floating above everyone's heads. "Human, hurry up and stop. I ordered in the name of transcendence, let go of that woman." A kitten with wings flew in the air and ordered majestically. Behind him there was a large piece of hand held the transcendence of weapons, that is, the kin of Harpy and Shalulu. Everyone raised their heads and suddenly remembered bursts of exclamations. "It's the Transcendent-sama. Has the Transcender-sama issued the will of God?" I saw the menacing group of soldiers around them were half kneeling on the ground, looking extremely pious. Seeing this, Naruto couldn't help laughing. A group of humans knelt down in front of the cat, and they simply obeyed their words. This was really funny. No matter how you look at it, these cats have little force. At this time, the leading cat noticed Naruto's contemptuous smile, and couldn't help but look cold, and said angrily, "Human, are you blaspheming the majesty of God?" Naruto looked around. Everyone looked like they were lying low on the ground. He raised his head and said, "I don't like people talking on top of my head." At the same time, an incomparably powerful momentum spread from Naruto's body, and everyone around felt that the air couldn't help but sink. A wave of energy pressed people down, making it difficult to even breathe. The Transcenders in midair were almost unable to lift their wings, and cold sweat broke out on their bodies. What a strong human being. Don't humans know how to use magic? Why does it still exude such a strong magical aura? This is definitely not the coercion that can be generated with magic props. At the same time, a wing of wind suddenly grew from Naruto's back, and his body gradually rose in the air, carrying Wendy on his back, holding Urza in his hand, and came to a level with the Transcenders. The people kneeling on the ground couldn't help being shocked when they saw this. What does this human want to do? How dare you so directly offend Master Transcendence? Is this challenging the power of God? The Queen can control the life and death of human beings. However, at the same time, they are also very fortunate in their hearts. If such a strong human being is handed over to them to deal with, I am afraid it will be very troublesome. Now that he has offended God, there is no need to say more about the end. Absolutely will die horribly. What an insane guy. The crowd thought to themselves.